Hey everybody, it's me, Caitlin, and it's Thursday, so it means it's time for another Star Wars Rebels recap and a little bit of Star Wars rumors and ideas mixed in. Last night's episode was titled The Call, and it was actually pretty interesting. And for an animal lover like me, it was so good to see some wildlife entering the Star Wars Rebels universe. So let's get started. At the beginning of the call, we find our favorite band of rebels on board the Ghost, shivering in the cold on the lowest power setting possible. Why? Because like the rest of the rebel fleet, our favorite band of rebels is running low on fuel, which is kind of a much needed thing if you're going to keep bugging the Empire and being a thorn in their side. So, Hera, Kanan, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and of course our favorite cat-like droid Chopper are on their way to an oil refinery run by the Mining Guild. Now, if the Mining Guild sounds familiar, it should. If you were really into Empire Strikes Back, you might have heard that name mentioned by Han when he, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO were on their way to Bespin. And if you read New Dawn, which is about Hera and Kanan meeting for the first time, the Mining Guild is something that Hera was something they were going up against in the story. So Mining Guild has been mentioned a few times. Also, in the prequels and in Clone Wars, there were a whole bunch of different corporations like the Trade Federation, the Banking Guild, the Techno Union, and the Mining Guild. Now, we don't know exactly what happens, but given that Mining Guild is mentioned in Empire Strikes Back and A New Dawn and now in Rebels, it's a safe bet to say that while the Empire took them over, they're still there and they're still running. Now, they're on their way to this oil refinery, cold, shivering, absolutely miserable, when Ezra hears a sound. You know how rails make that kind of sad, mournful sound? Well, that's what Ezra hears. Only problem, nobody else on the Ghost hears it. So they all don't believe him until Sabine looks out the window and spots a pod of Purrgil. That's why I'm saying a pod, it was a group. Purrgils are these really cool looking creatures. They're like half whale, half squid. They're really interesting. Hera is not so happy to see them. It sounds like the Purrgil have kind of a reputation for maybe destroying ships they come across in space and apparently crossing their paths in like hyperspace and stuff. So she's not really happy to see them because she thinks they're going to come after the Ghost. Ezra, on the other hand, is all open to meeting them. In fact, while they're coming past the Ghost, he starts to make a connection with them. Well, Ezra convinces the crew to follow the Purrgil, and the Purrgil are actually heading to the same oil refinery that the rebels are to steal the Empire's fuel. Now, the Purrgil are going to end up playing a big part in this episode, and so does Ezra. And this episode also demonstrates what I think is Ezra's amazing talent for connections. Now, Ezra's connection talent has already been mentioned a few times. In the Empire Day episodes, Ezra is actually being trained how to connect to living things by Kanan. But Ezra is scared because it means he has to let down his guard. Eventually, he gets it right, but unfortunately, at the same time, he gets so upset with the Inquisitor when the Inquisitor hurts Kanan that he touches the dark side. This is one of the reasons why I don't ever see Ezra going dark again after what happened to him, but there's always a chance. But Ezra's connection ability has been shown a few times. Again, in one episode where Kanan gets captured, Ezra connects with like a Lothcat to help destroy a probe. When they have to go save the Force-sensitive kids from the Inquisitors, he makes a connection to one of the kids to keep the kid calm. So actually connecting seems like it's a really strong natural ability of Ezra, and it looks like it's only gotten stronger. He makes such an intense connection with the Purrgil that he's actually able to understand them. So obviously his powers are growing by leaps and bounds, and we don't know where they're going to go. But I really like Ezra's connection with the Purrgil. Hera's attitude towards them is kind of interesting for me. I've always thought of her as like the level-headed person, always welcoming of people and new things. But Hera definitely doesn't like the Purrgil at the start of the episode. Luckily, by the end, Ezra convinces her that the Purrgil are fine and they're there to help. And once again, the rebels save the day with a little help from a new group of friends. The Purrgil also are what Hera claims are what inspired people in the Star Wars universe to start jumping from system to system. And it proves a new interesting theory on the creation of hyperspace. I'm not going to spoil it too much for you if you haven't watched it yet, but it's a really fun theory. And I'm really looking forward to learning more. Maybe we'll see Purrgil again, and if we do, I am so excited. Let's see. Oh yeah, yellow TIE fighters. We all know the traditional TIE fighters are like black, silverish gray, unless they're like special ones like what the Inquisitors or Darth Vader uses. Well, in this episode, we see yellow TIE fighters that have been slightly modified by the Mining Guild. They're not great modifications, but it's definitely cool to see TIE fighters in a different color other than the silver and black. I actually kind of miss Sabine's brightly colored TIE fighter from the end of the first season. So the call was actually a pretty good episode. Like I said, for an animal lover like me, it was awesome. The Purrgil I thought were really cool, and they're a great legend to add into the Star Wars universe. We don't know exactly how all those technical advances were made. Like, where did they first figure out that they could use this cool type of hype thing to jump like millions of miles or something? So I think the Purrgil being the source of inspiration behind hyperspace traveling and just the idea of jumping from system to system is really cool. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it too much. There were a few funny moments when Ezra suggested that they fly with the Purrgil instead of against him. Hera's not too happy with the idea, and Kanan says it's not the weirdest or strangest thing they ever done, with Hera replies that it doesn't make her feel any better. This is actually the first episode where Kanan and Hera kind of get a little mad with each other and kind of fight. In fact, Kanan goes to give Hera a variation of the "I told you so" speech via the ship's communication, only for Hera to turn it off. Not that it matters, because Kanan comes down to the cockpit and continues his speech, with Hera cattily replying that she heard him the first time. Also, while Ezra's ability to connect with living creatures through the Force has grown by leaps and bounds, he's kind of still missing a few of the basics. In order to get down to the mining refinery and secure the platform so that they can refuel the Ghost and get the fuel for the fleet, Sabine, Chopper, Kanan, and Ezra all decide to jump out of the Ghost. Quick note, Kanan gave Sabine the stormtrooper helmet he got, and she painted it and it looks like a Wookiee. Anyway, they go to jump, and luckily Sabine has Chopper. Kanan, being the Jedi, he of course knows how to use the Force to help cushion his landing so he doesn't totally fall flat on his face. Ezra unfortunately needs to work on that skill a little bit more. He goes to try, and he can't, ends up almost falling off the refinery. Thankfully, Master Kanan is there to help him, and Ezra realizes that's one skill he needs to work on. And Kanan, of course, will make sure he works on it till it's down flat. It's always interesting to me to see what skills Ezra can and can't use right now. Like, he can't use the Force to help him land, but he's amazing at using a Force push to knock someone off the platform. I guess there are just some skills that come easily and others that take a lot of work. But then again, as I said, Ezra's abilities are growing by leaps and bounds, and as Kanan has pointed out before, Ezra's abilities are growing so fast that sometimes Kanan's not sure that he can keep up with Ezra. But definitely go check out the call if you haven't seen it, and I will tell you about next week's episode at the end of the video. Oh, and before I forget, a big shout out to all my friends on IMVU, an online chat site I belong to, where I also roleplay as Noelle Delavent. Hi guys, I'm sorry I didn't shout out to you in the last video, but here I am today doing it, so please don't shoot me when I get online tonight. So, let's go into some interesting Star Wars rumors before I bore you with my psychoanalyzing. I recently came across a video by a man from John Armstrong Media who came up with a few rumors thanks to the website Making Star Wars. Now, warning ahead, none of these rumors have been confirmed by Disney. They're just ideas that have been floating around out there. Much like since Force Awakens, there are very many different rumors of who Rey's father is, which is something I'll talk about later. Now, the big rumor is this one. Apparently, in the third season, we're going to see an old EU character appear. Now, for those of you who haven't caught my last few videos, the Star Wars Expanded Universe was this huge series of books and games and stuff about what happens after Return of the Jedi. Now, sadly, through Force Awakens, Disney has kind of destroyed the old Expanded Universe, which had some amazing stories and characters, including the 3 Solo kids, Mara Jade, Luke's wife, and lots of really interesting, just kind of out there characters. Now, there is something new. According to Making Star Wars and John Armstrong Media, the rumor is out there that one of the villains from the old expanded universe, now called Star Wars Legends, is going to be making his appearance in Star Wars Rebels Season 3. Wild guess? Well, I was surprised. The villain that is supposed to be making an appearance is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Yeah, see? This guy was a nasty piece of work. He almost managed to bring down the New Republic shortly, just a few years after the Battle of Endor in the fall of the Empire. There are 3 books, of which I have the final 2. This Grand Admiral Thrawn was actually the big bad villain in the first Star Wars Expanded Universe book ever written by Timothy Zahn. He's an alien with blue skin and red eyes, and he's really actually a brilliant tactician and strategist and knows exactly what he needs to do. Since he was already part of the Empire before, it kind of makes sense that they would be able to bring him in a way to Star Wars Rebels. He would still be the same guy, this brilliant strategist and tactician in the Imperial Navy who is now bugging the Ghost crew and driving them kind of bonkers with his abilities. It'd be really interesting to see him be brought in, and if they do manage to bring him in, I think they might bring in more characters from the old expanded universe. But what do you guys think? Do you think Grand Admiral Thrawn is a good choice to bring in if the rumor is true? Would you rather some other old expanded universe character come in? I know there are a few I would love to see more than him, but maybe he's a good character to start out with. Another rumor is how Season 3 is going to end up. According to Making Star Wars, they are going to do a small time jump. And they are going to give Ezra a new look, including redesigning his lightsaber. Hopefully, if this is true, they keep Ezra's lightsaber that same lightsaber blaster combo. I think it is the most practical lightsaber ever built, honestly. But with reference to the time jump and the character redesign, it's actually kind of right on par. You have to remember that the people who are doing Star Wars Rebels were the ones who did Star Wars Clone Wars. And in Season 3, they also did a small time jump as well as redesigned outfits and looks for the characters Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. I didn't really like the new looks for Obi-Wan and Anakin, but I loved Ahsoka's. So if this rumor is true, then it's right on line with Clone Wars. Third season, they changed a few things, did a small time jump, so it would make sense that they would do it in Rebels. Again, these rumors are unconfirmed, and I'll post a link to the John Armstrong Media video where he does talk about that. Oh, and another thing I learned, a lot of people I know who are Ezra, Luke, and Leia are all the same age, and so a lot of people I know, and myself included, have all assumed that Ezra, Luke, and Leia were born on the same day, Empire Day. Actually, they weren't. Thankfully, some Star Wars old producers straightened it out. Ezra is actually about 2 to 3 days older than Luke and Leia. Empire Day actually refers to the day that Palpa Creep declared himself Empire. Padme was there, pregnant with the twins, so that means Ezra is actually the oldest of the 3. Speaking of Luke and Leia, this was something I forgot to talk about last week. Well, actually, a few weeks ago when I covered Princess of Lothal. I wanted to talk about their personality. See, I made a note watching Princess of Lothal that I thought Leia, because she was so bossy, was a lot like Anakin. When you see him in Clone Wars, he kind of has this natural leader, but he's really bossy, and I just find that really interesting that Leia is the same way. Luke, I kind of feel like, is taking after Padme in his personality, believing that everybody's good. I mean, Padme never gave up believing that Anakin was going to be good, and Luke was the same way. So I definitely think in terms of personality, Leia is more like Anakin, and Luke is more like their mom. But definitely in terms of interest, Leia takes after their mom, and Luke takes after their dad. I also had this theory about who Sabine's mother was, and this was something I was going to cover again last week, and I didn't. I've talked about this theory before. Some people say it's good. I'm not so sure it's good. I'm actually starting to doubt it myself. We don't know who Sabine's mother is. But one of the producers for Star Wars Rebels actually dropped a hint saying Sabine's mother was in the throne room on Mandalore when Darth Maul killed Pre Vizsla after beating him in single combat. Now there's a ton of members of Death Watch in there, and only one of them is a woman not wearing the helmet. That woman happens to be Bo-Katan, I hope I said her name right, Satine's sister. Satine was the Duchess of Mandalore at the time, and she actually had two sisters. One is unnamed and is the mother of her nephew Corky, who we meet a couple times. The other is Bo-Katan, who apparently was really close to Satine before she decided to join Death Watch. My theory is that Bo is Sabine's mother, and that after Satine's death, Bo had her and named her Sabine as a way of honoring Satine. However, I'm not so sure if this theory is actually really any good. I'm not sure if Bo could be Sabine's mother. It's a good theory, but mostly what I'm basing this on is Sabine's age, the fact that she and Satine have similar sounding names, Also, Sabine was born near the end of Clone Wars, so she probably would have been born when, being a few years, two, maybe just being born around the time of Satine's death. And Satine only ever mentions her nephew Corky. So I'm not sure if this is a plausible theory or not. What do you guys think? Do you think my theory that maybe Sabine is Satine's niece a good theory? Or should I start looking elsewhere? Remember, as I said, I'm basing this on the images from that episode of Clone Wars. Bo-Katan is the only woman I can tell because she's not wearing the helmet. So, am I on the right track, or should I start digging a little bit more? Now, here's a fan theory that I got from watching Star Wars Rebels Recon. Every week, the host goes to the story group's Hidalgo Rivera and asks him a question or two that fans have been asking through social media. That question last week threw me for a loop, and it's this. A fan wanted to know if Sabine was Obi-Wan's daughter and Rey Sabine's daughter. That's kind of a really weird theory. The answer was a very resounding no, but it's not a theory I'd ever heard of before. I think it's really interesting, though, that somebody would actually automatically put those together. And if it was true, and if the theory is a good one, then we all know who Sabine's mother would probably be. It would most likely be Satine, because that was the only woman Obi-Wan was really ever romantically involved with. But as Hidalgo Rivera said, no, Rey is not Sabine's daughter, and Sabine is not Obi-Wan's daughter. Rats. But it's a good theory like other theories. That's the best thing about Star Wars. You can come up with the craziest theories, and there's a chance they might be a little bit true. So, I will also put a link for this week's Rebels Recon in below my description so that you guys can watch it and see what's coming up. And next week's episode promises to be really interesting. It's called Homecoming for a very good reason. So far, the basic plot is this. The Ghost Crew is still looking for a base for the Rebels, but they need somewhere to rest the fleet, the smaller ships, in between battles so that the pilots have a chance to rest and they're not always flying everywhere. Commander Sato is able to locate an Imperial carrier over the planet Ryloth. Sounds familiar? Because we have been to Ryloth before if you've watched Clone Wars a couple times. In fact, one of my favorite Clone Wars episodes takes place on Ryloth, where Roxer and Boyle make a new little friend. So, the Ghost Crew is off to Ryloth, and for one Ghost Crew member, it's a homecoming. Maybe not a joyful homecoming, but a homecoming nevertheless, and it may actually force that member to confront some ghost of her past. So, next week's episode is the homecoming. We're going back to Ryloth, and I can't wait to see it. So, what do you guys think? Did you guys enjoy last night's episode? What do you think of the Purrgils and the idea that they helped create hyperspace? And what do you think of my theories on who Sabine's mother is, and my ideas on where Luke and Leia each get their personality from? Comment below or ask questions. And don't forget to tell me which old Expanded Universe character you would like to see come into the Star Wars Rebel universe. Once again, I'm Caitlin. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys on Saturday with my regular vlog, and I'll see you again next Thursday if you're a Star Wars fan. Catch you on the flip side, and may the Force be with you.